Annie, and welcome to our special meeting of council. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we live, work, and gather on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people, specifically the Temiskaming First Nation. We recognize the presence of the Temiskaming First Nation in our community since time immemorial and honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift their voice and values. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. All members of council are present.
Thank you. Takes us to item 3, approval of the agenda. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that City Council approves the agenda as printed. Can I get a mover, please? It's Councillor Wilson, second by Councillor Dawson. Discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. Item 4, declaration of a special meeting. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that Council of the City of Temiskaming Shores declares this meeting a special meeting in accordance with Section 9 of Procedural Bylaw number 2023-022. Can I get a mover, please? It's Councillor Graydon, second by Councillor Pelche-Leveng. Discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. Item 5, is there any disclosure or pecuniary interest in general nature?
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Ian Graydon declared a conflict of pecuniary interest related to Section 8, closed session, Item 1, labor relations, employee negotiations, management, non-union staff agreement discussion, as an immediate staff family member is a non-union employee with the City of Temiskaming Shores. Thank you.
Any others? Seeing none. Takes us to item 6. Public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act, Municipal Act, and other statutes. Item A, presentation number 2, the final 2026 municipal operating and capital budget. Steph, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, and everyone in attendance in person and online. This afternoon, I will be sharing the second presentation of the 2026 municipal budget for the City of Temiskaming Shores. This budget reflects the work completed by the management team since the fall and incorporates the best available information at this stage. Great discussion was had at the last meeting, the Special Committee of the Whole, and refinements were made based on those recommendations on November 18th. Resolutions of Council provided direction to incorporate a 3.5% increase to the tax levy, a 4% increase to water, sewer rates, and a $10 increase to the solid waste fee. The version before you today is the second draft, which incorporates all recommendations from the last meeting, as well as keeping the other tax scenarios which were presented for comparison. Throughout the process, our key objectives have remained consistent: maintaining service levels, support housing enabling growth, address critical infrastructure needs, manage inflation and contractual pressures, and maintain fiscally responsible. In 2025, we were successful in securing major funding through the Housing Enabling Core Servicing Stream in the amount of $2.87 million, and the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund maximum amount of $7.4 million, allowing us to move ahead with significant housing enabling projects while reducing reliance on debt. All operating and capital items in the budget were reviewed through 3 lenses. Does it align with the strategic plan, the asset management plan, and other planning documents? Does it support housing enabling growth? And does it address immediate needs, end of life, and funding opportunities? Based on this approach, our key goals for the 2026 budget are no new debt for 2026 capital projects, build reserve capacity for future capital needs, support housing and community growth, advance strategic plan initiatives, and present clear tax impact scenarios and other information to support council decision making. The total combined budget for 2026 is approximately $32.8 million. The general operations have remained relatively steady. Environmental services has increased about 3%, and capital spending is higher. However, this is mainly driven by a few significant projects, which are mostly funded through external sources. The estimates include inflation and contractual increases, as well as personnel-related adjustments in alignment with the collective agreement and organizational review. On this slide, we have a summary of the general operations budget. So just to explain the slide, it is separated into 3 sections. We have the actuals, we have budgets, and we have the budget change. So a positive red number means an increase, and a negative number in black represents a decrease or additional revenue. There were notable changes in several departments, which have been outlined in the report distributed with the meeting package. In an effort to streamline this presentation, I will go over the significant changes only. 3 tax levy scenarios were presented at the last meeting and have been left in the summary for comparison. The numbers highlighted in blue were the figures that were adjusted from the last presentation after Council's recommendations were incorporated. So just a few general notes. The employer benefits such as the CPP, EI, EHT, WSIB, and OMERS were increased in accordance to the guidelines available at the time of preparation. Salary increases are in accordance with the QP Local 5014 collective agreement and the recent organizational review. And operating projects are included in the applicable departmental budgets for a total of $603,800. The list of all the projects and the descriptions are available in the budget report. So if we combine notes A and B, which are council, community development, fire services, and corporate services, so the changes within these areas relate primarily to personnel-related increases, which are partially offset by carryover funds from 2025. Other noteworthy items are the inclusion of a summer sustainability coordinator position, as recommended in the strategic plan, an increase to volunteer firefighter honorariums to reflect the increase in call volumes, increases to software contracts, telephone, tax collection fees, and insurance, as well as a reduction in manual life benefit cost. Under Note C, we have economic development. So the city's net contribution towards economic development remains consistent with the previous year. The tourism activities housed within the city's budget will now be supported with the city's portion of the municipal accommodation tax. A new tourism coordinator will deliver programs and initiatives as recommended by the Economic Development Corporation, which will receive 50% of this new municipal accommodation tax. The city will continue to support the storefront embellishment program at $50,000. For Note D, Public Works, the combined budget increases, that's Public Works and Fleet, and that combined budget increases by $226,000, which approximately half attributed to personnel-related adjustments, including a new mechanic apprentice position. The remainder of the increase is due to rising costs for roadside maintenance, fuel, and parts. Following a review of the enterprise leasing program, we will begin buying out leased units, saving approximately $105,000 in operating lease expenses for 2026. A lease expense of roughly $100,000 remains in this budget for outstanding vehicles, and a capital request has been included for 7 vehicle buyouts. Note E, solid waste. The increase within this department is a direct result of the inclusion of funds to support curbside recycling collection for ICI establishments, as the provincial regulation does not require producers to be responsible. The net expense to provide this service is $78,600. Note F and G, we have policing, health, and social services. Close to $320,000 has been included to account for potential increases in policing, public health, and social service levies. The updated policing amount was expected before the end of last week, however, has not been received at this time, while confirmation of the two other levies will not be available until the new year. As the city must comply with new legislative requirements for adopting the municipal budget, requests were made to both the Northeastern Public Health Unit and the District of Social Services Board for their earlier budget estimates. Both organizations have indicated no plans to alter their budget timelines. These levy estimates remain subject to change. Any surplus would be applied to offset operating or capital shortfalls or transferred to the working capital reserve, while any deficits for these lines would require mitigation through identified savings or reserve contributions. Note H and I, capital planning and financing. In an effort to build a healthier working capital reserve, we are proposing a transfer to reserve equivalent to approximately 1% of our general taxation revenue. This would be used to offset future capital purchases or projects as approved. A total of 3 loans matured in 2025, 2 were within the general budget and 1 in the environmental budget. And the Ontario Municipal Partnership funding, which is Note J on this summary, has increased by $303,000, though this is fully absorbed by the estimated increases to policing, health, and social services. For the environmental services, we see an increase of approximately $190,000 to reflect necessary repairs and maintenance of water and wastewater assets, as well as rising costs in electricity, equipment, and staffing. 1 loan has matured in 2025 for the environmental services. In 2026, 40% of the total municipal budget is dedicated to capital investments. Capital spending increases by approximately $8.8 million, driven largely by major housing enabling projects. Approximately 75% of funding for all capital assets comes from grants, partnerships, and donations. And for a 3rd consecutive year, the city is proposing no new debt-funded capital projects. On this slide, we see the combined summary of all the 2026 capital projects. 38 capital projects or purchases have been recommended for a total of approximately $13 million. The full list of all the capital projects, along with their descriptions and funding sources, is available in the budget report. This slide just shows the breakdown of funding sources. So as previously mentioned, 75% of the capital projects are covered by external funding. So a few capital highlights for 2026 include the Golf Course Road Bridge Phase 2, Dawson Point and Peters Road, the Pool Fitness Center Energy Efficient Project, the Don Shepherdson Memorial Arena Roof, and the McKelvey Baker Project. So the Dawson Point Peters Road is Phase 2 of the project. The road is currently rated in the lowest category of the Pavement Condition Index and has experienced increasing traffic as a main collector route in the city center. The asphalt edges have completely deteriorated, and crossing culverts must be reviewed. The project also includes additional street lighting. Completing this work will reduce ongoing maintenance costs. This project is 50% funded by the province through the Housing Enabling Core Servicing Stream. And you can see a picture of Dawson Point Road on the bottom right of this slide. The Golf Course Road Bridge is also Phase 2. This targets deficiencies noted in the latest bridge inspection, including repairs to approach slabs, joints, and concrete surfaces, as well as resurfacing of the bridge deck. The Pool Fitness Center energy efficient project entails replacement of gas fire boilers with energy efficient air source heat pumps. The building will also undergo recommissioning, and this project is 80% funded through the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings funding. The Don Shepherdson Memorial Arena roof will see the replacement of the upper and lower roof membranes. The project will lower ongoing operational costs, and this is 50% funded by the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund. And last but not least, the McKelvey Baker project. This is fully funded through the Hughes Fund and development charges, and this project replaces aging water, sanitary, and storm infrastructure on McKelvey and Baker. It also extends new servicing eastwards towards Peters Road to increase system capacity and improve access. These upgrades are essential to supporting new housing in the Boreal subdivision and aligns with the city's asset management plan by renewing end-of-life infrastructure while enabling future residential growth. Before we wrap up the capital budget, we would like to bring a few items to your attention. So even though we do not present an extensive multi-year capital budget, we have compiled a list of projects that will lead into additional work or subsequent phases, items that currently have pending funding applications, which may require a commitment from the city, and items that were deferred from this year's budget for future years. And at this time, there's close to $14.5 million planned for capital in 2027 without completing the detailed review of requirements for all departments. So we have prepared some tax scenarios for the median residential property and the average commercial property in 2025. We weren't able to use the modeling tool on the ministry's site to estimate the impact on the actual tax rates. Therefore, we simply applied the percentage increases directly to this year's tax rates. Please note these are subject to change. So the median residential property is valued at $193,000. So an increase for that property based on the 3 tax scenarios presented, the 4% increase to water sewer and the $10 increase to solid waste, means that that property could see an increase between $125 to $149 annually, or $10 to $12 a month. We have also prepared scenarios based on the average commercial property, which was valued at $320,000. So based on the 3 tax scenarios and the same increase to water sewer rates, $10 increase to solid waste fee, the average commercial property could see an estimated increase between $40 to $120 annually, or $3 to $10 a month. On this slide, we show how each tax dollar is divided between municipal services and external agencies. Approximately 71 cents of every dollar supports municipal services we deliver, while the remaining 29 cents flows to external agencies, such as police services, school boards, social services, and public health. The municipality has limited to no control over these costs and primarily acts as a flow-through for these funds. While considering the budget requirements for 2026, we reviewed a chart comparing the municipal tax increase levy to the Ontario CPI from 2017 to 2025. The cumulative percentage point gap illustrates whether these adjustments have been keeping pace exceeding, or have fallen below inflation over time. From 2017 to 2025, the municipal tax levy increase was 7.5 percent points below inflation. To further assist with our recommendation for the 2026 tax levy increase, we prepared a chart comparing proposed municipal levy changes from other municipalities. While several remain in draft, the early figures illustrate the general direction of the other communities. The 2026 budget maintains the existing service levels, invests in critical infrastructure, and advances major housing enabling projects that support long-term growth. Despite ongoing inflationary and levy-related pressures, the city continues to manage its finances responsibly by leveraging external funding, building reserves, and avoiding new debt for the third consecutive year. When we look at the cumulative impact over the last 5 years, our tax increases have remained below CPI, which has created a growing gap between the inflationary pressures and available revenue. In summary, the recommended 3.5 levy increase helps narrow this gap, supports fiscal sustainability, and ensures that the city can achieve all proposed projects without relying on debt. We are seeking council's support of the budget as presented and final direction on the tax levy, water and sewer rates, and solid waste fee. And I'd like to thank the senior management team again for their collaboration and efforts throughout the budget process. Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation, Steph. Does anybody have any questions for Steph? Councillor Whalen.
Thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate it. Just a couple of comments. I don't really have questions, just a couple of comments I wanted to make. I really appreciate the fact that we're not taking on any new debt. You know, you say we're going to borrow money to do this, and you think of that as this year's budget, but it impacts year after year after year, so I really appreciate that. We mentioned the last time assessment was done was in 2016. That's, you know, we're budgeting 2026 dollars against 2026 costs. So 2016 is kind of irrelevant because the fact that there may be a reassessment doesn't really mean we're going to end up with a whole pocket full of extra money. You know, we're playing, like I say, $2026 against 2026 costs. So in your presentation, actually our operating costs are down slightly. Our environmental costs are up a little bit, but our capital spending is enormous. I really appreciate the work staff put into that, because that's what people see. You know, they don't see the day-to-day operations at City Hall, but they see the work being done out in the municipality. So I think this budget is very well done. I think the money is being well spent. So thank you to everybody involved, and I support the 3.5 and the 4 on environmental. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Whalen. Any other comments? Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, great job, everybody, on this. It's an excellent document. And I think this is sort of a wider question. It's a question we've had before, but the risks associated with the unknowns around policing, public health, and social services, and I know we've had these discussions, and I know we're not going to get any numbers on that. My one question is, in regards to policing, just remind me, I think we talked about it, but remind me when we're expecting the policing numbers?
Any day.
And any day?
Any day now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess, so they have said there's a maximum of 11% right across the province in that. So So if we're expecting those numbers in any day, I didn't realize it was that close, but then, you know, that's what concerns me is same with public health and same with DSAB. You know, as long as we feel we're in a good position for that if we end up having to pay more, then that's going to be something that comes out of something else. And that's just what concerns me right now. Otherwise, you know, I think the document's great. I think you guys have done a fabulous job on this, but that's what concerns me, and I'm just wondering if that's because I know we're not going to get the numbers for DSAB for quite a while, and we're definitely not going to get the numbers for NEF, excuse me, for quite a while. So that's my only concern, and I don't know if there's any other comments around that, but thanks.
Sure, maybe I'll speak to that, Steph, because it's really a political issue, and Councillor Wilson, you sit on, you know, one of those boards with me, and Councillor Dawson, you sit on the other board with me as well, and we do have a delegation. We're going to be talking, you know, to the province. They're the ones that are mandating the change in timing, you know, under the strong mayor powers. And, you know, although we're not implementing any additional powers as it relates to that, unfortunately, when it comes to the budget, those are mandated changes in legislation that we have to meet. And the partners, and you know, when we sent letters asking them, you know, to take this into consideration and making sure that we could achieve our mandate, both of those organizations responded that they're not in a position to do that today. And so we will be meeting with the province and saying, you know, hey, you need to either change legislation or you need to give some directives to these groups. So, you know, that being said, we put estimates together to the best of our knowledge. DSAB as well as Northeastern Public Health provided some historical data. The past doesn't really indicate or make us assured that that's going to be the same in the future. But we do have, you know, our best guess on what those costs are. What I will say, and I do feel comfortable that at least we're going to cover, you know, a large part of that. When I look at the budget, and we're talking spending, operating and capital, $32.8 million, right? Half of that's coming from the ratepayers, right? The other half is coming, you know, from the province or the feds or partners within you know, the municipality, and that's huge. We didn't take on any debt, you know, for the last 3 years, and on top of that, we're going to put $1.8 million aside in the capital reserve. And when I look at the presentations that were given tonight in our committee of the whole, and every department talked about funding and applying for funding applications. And, you know, that's really what's allowing us to spend $32.8 million in this year. We do have some flexibility with regards to those costs that we're not necessarily aware of, but to the best of our knowledge is there. But it's important that we put that money away in the capital side, because if the government does say yes to some of these funding programs, they're not 100%. And we really do need to make sure we have our share of the money to make sure that these are going back, and making sure that there's not huge fluctuations in the rates that we charge our ratepayers. So I think, you know, from a planning perspective, when I look at what was presented today, it really ticks off a lot of boxes. And you tie that to the strategic plan and what we've heard from the ratepayers on what's important and where we need to go. I would say that this is a really strong budget, and it's really setting us up for the future. Just my thoughts. Thanks. And hopefully that answers your question, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, and it was more a comment than anything, and it's something we've been discussing, and yeah, I mean, we have to, it still concerns me, but I think we have to try, as you say, politically, to try and change that, and because it's not really fair to dump it on our ratepayers when the province is not, giving us rules that are functional, let's put it that way, right? Yeah. So thanks. Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're on a really good track here, and again, thanks to everybody for their work.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. And the one last comment is, here we are talking December 2nd, and we're talking about approving our budget for next year. And if you look at the capital projects, right, the sooner we make the decisions to move forward, right, the better planning and the execution, and we do what we planned on doing going forward. So I think, even from a timing perspective, it's extremely positive. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Ducharme.
I concur with my colleagues at the table here, but I just really do want to thank you for a couple of pieces that are in here, and one is being able to implement the changes from the organizational review. I think that resourcing the city in a way that allows some of these projects and strategic goals that we have to actually move forward, because there is enough capacity to do them, I think really matters. And to be able to do that in the context of a budget that still is putting money aside for reserves, for whether that's future capital or being able to chip in our piece of the grant that we're applying for, or just for a rainy day. Those are some real strengths here, and I'm also supportive of the 3.5% and the 4%, so thank you for all your hard work.
Thanks, Councillor Ducharme. Councillor Graydon.
Thanks, Mayor. I really just want to say thanks as well, and to everyone. I know how much work goes into this, and appreciate the report, and I'm sure most of us we get asked about stuff like this, right, and about the rate increases and what's happening. So it's nice to have a very defensible budget that's really easy to point to. As Councillor Ducharme said, the changes in wages, let's say, and the changes in the org structure. There's lots of examples, lots of things we can point to, and that's really makes it easy on us, makes it easy on me, for sure, speaking for myself. And I appreciate the conservative approach that, as Councillor Whalen said, also incorporates things that, where we are looking forward as well. It's not just conservatism, so it's a fine line. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Thanks, Councillor Graydon. Any last comments? No. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved, the Council of the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby acknowledges the presentation of the final 2026 operating and capital budget, incorporating Council's direction from the November 18th, 2025 Special Committee of the Whole meeting. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Dawson, seconded by Councillor Ducharme. Discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. Takes us to item 7, new business. 7A, the 2026 municipal operating budget. I do have a resolution in front of me. Whereas staff presented the 2026 municipal operating budget to Council at a special committee of the whole meeting on November the 18th, 2025, and a special regular Council meeting on December the 2nd, 2025. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby approves its 2026 municipal operating budget utilizing a 3.5% recommendation on November the 18th was 3.5% increase to the municipal tax levy for the operations and an increase to the water, wastewater rates utilizing a 4% increase. Now therefore be it resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby approves an increase of $10 to solid waste fee levy. And further, be it resolved, the Council hereby approves the 2026 general operating budget estimates as follows. General Government, $2,739,933. Community Development, $352,985. Policing, $2,302,000. Health and Social Services, $3,270,100. Fire and Emergency Management, $597,079. Economic Development, $303,923. Recreation, $1,668,973. Property Maintenance, $625,755. Public Works and Fleet, $4,392,140. Solid Waste Management, $498,575. Transit, $523,667. Library, $467,907. Capital Financing, $867,874. Reserve Allocation, $164,932. And then we have the OMPF, which was $4,106,700 for net municipal operations of $14,669,143. And further, the Council approves the 2026 environmental operating budget estimates as follows. Administration, $1,220,187. Sewage treatment and collection, $1,130,922. Water treatment and distribution, $2,138,512. Reserve allocation, $92. And capital financing of $630,094 for a net environmental operation of $5,119,807. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Graydon, seconded by Councillor Wayland. Discussion? All in favor? And that motion is carried. And item B, the 2026 municipal capital budget. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved, the Council hereby approves the 2026 general capital budget estimates as follows. Corporate Services, $404,021. Fire and Emergency Management, $71,300. Public Works and Solid Waste, $2,660,000. Recreation Services, $496,900. Property Maintenance, $1,983,700. Fleet, $585,000. Transit, $138,000. General Capital, project total, $6,338,921. And further, the Council hereby approves the 2026 environmental capital budget estimates as follows. Environmental projects, $6,770,000. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Dawson, seconded by Councillor Ducharme. Discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. And that takes us to item 8, which is closed session. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that council agrees to convene in closed session at, I'll say 5:15, to discuss the following. 1, under Section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act 2001, labor relations / employee negotiations, management, non-union staff agreement discussions. Item 2, under Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001, a personal matter, the New Liskeard Business Improvement Area Board of Management application for seat vacancy. Can I get a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Whalen. Second by Councillor Graydon. Discussion? All in favor? And we'll be going into closed session. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.